Revenge with Karen.
I don't think you understand how this works, Dana. We need your client contacts. Today, that was the moment. The moment her 12 years of loyalty got compacted into a sentence with the warmth of a debt collector's voicemail. No farewell party, no email blast thanking her for the impact, no HR platitudes. Just her boss, Travis, who once called her the soul of the sales team at a holiday mixer after his third scotch, now sitting across the glass conference table, tapping his pen like he was waiting for a pizza order. And behind him, that smug new VP, Jordan, all bright teeth and buzzwords, arms folded like he'd just closed a deal. Except the only thing he'd closed was Dana's career at that firm. Restructure, they called it. We're going in a new direction, Travis had said 5 minutes earlier, eyes darting anywhere but her face. Dana didn't ask where that direction led. She already knew. Off a cliff, but with better PowerPoint transitions. She stared at the file transfer prompt on the company laptop. All client contacts, Travis repeated. You'll upload them to the shared folder. And let's keep this clean, all right? Clean, like bleach poured over a crime scene. Her hand didn't shake, but it might have if she hadn't already spent the last 6 weeks preparing for this exact ambush. She clicked and dragged the file. Dana client handover final XLSX into the upload window. It looked harmless enough. Everything they asked for, names, titles, companies, emails, phone numbers. The bones of her client list laid bare, but not the soul. The soul was trust, rapport. The 9 p.m. calls with panicked clients. The baby gifts she sent when Angie in procurement had twins. Quiet intervention when a longtime client almost got replaced by a cheaper competitor. And Dana made sure it didn't happen by pulling strings the VP didn't know existed. The kind of loyalty that didn't show up in Salesforce fields. Travis didn't know she'd been quietly working nights and weekends on her escape plan. Didn't know she'd already bought a domain, hired a copywriter, and built a sleek consulting site. Didn't know her personal email signature was now branded. Didn't know that this exact spreadsheet, the one they were drooling over, had just one subtle flourish. A PDF footer, nothing flashy. Just a neat little link on the last tab in fine print for consulting inquiries. www.danrriversconsulting.com, call it a signature. Call it a Trojan horse. Dana called it leverage. She stood up slowly, pushing her chair in with the same care she once gave to client onboarding. No raised voice, no drama, just a nod. Thanks for the opportunity, she said. It came out smooth, neutral. But beneath it, she was vibrating with something darker. Not rage, not even betrayal, calculation. Jordan smirked like a man who'd just won a hand of poker without realizing Dana was playing chess 2 tables over. Best of luck, he said. You'll land on your feet. She didn't answer. She didn't need to, because her feet were already planted, and they were facing forward. By the time she walked past the front desk for the last time, her access badge already deactivated, her phone buzzed. An email. Subject line, consulting. Sender, a senior manager from their second largest client. She didn't even have to open it to know what it said. The link had done its job. That night, she poured a glass of Cabernet on her porch, watching the sun bleed into the tree line like a slow exhale. Her laptop sat open beside her. Site traffic was spiking. 6 unique visitors in the last hour. 3 clicks on the book a call button. 12 years of free advice. 12 years of answering late-night emails for 0 commission. 12 years of being called part of the furniture by execs who'd never once taken her to lunch. Not anymore. She looked at her inbox. 1 new message. Another client. This one even bolder. Hey, I saw your link. Can we talk? She didn't grin. She didn't fist pump. She just took another sip of wine and started blocking off hours on her calendar. Let them think they fired her. Let them have their spreadsheet. Dana had something better. She had gravity. By noon the next day, it was like Dana had never existed. Her Slack account deactivated. Her name gone from the team roster. Even her old email signature, when she'd spent years polishing with just the right mix of warmth and competence, had been overwritten by some canned reach out to our team at sales at Logic Spherecom nonsense. The kind of line that screams, you're not a person. You're a ticket in the queue. There was no goodbye thread. No thanks for everything, Dana. Post on the company's internal bulletin. Not even a passive-aggressive we wish her well in her future endeavors sent to the team. Just silence. Cold, mechanical, surgical silence. And in that vacuum, Jordan strutted in. The man had barely finished onboarding and was already claiming he'd streamlined the legacy accounts Dana had spent over a decade cultivating like a damn bonsai tree. In the team meeting that followed her ouster, one she obviously wasn't invited to. Jordan reportedly said, "Now that we're modernizing the pipeline, we can start focusing on scalable touchpoints." Scalable touchpoints. It's what he called her relationships, her people. The ones who sent her Christmas cards, the ones who invited her to their weddings, the ones who once called her during a hurricane because she was the only person they trusted to reroute a critical shipment. Now they were touchpoints. On her porch that evening, Dana sat barefoot, a throw blanket over her legs, watching the cicadas wake up. Her laptop screen glowed softly beside her, open to her new site. Simple layout, clean font. Tagline, relationship first logistics strategy. Built on trust, not buzzwords. She refreshed the analytics page. 21 visitors, 6 from known IPs linked to her old firm. 1 hit from the city where their biggest client's HQ sat. Another from a familiar satellite office in Phoenix. The cracks were forming already. Her inbox pinged. Subject, saw your link, can we talk? The sender's name jumped out instantly. A VP from Freightalytics, longtime client who used to call her our secret weapon in meetings. He was polite, measured. Said he was exploring advisory support during a transition period. She didn't respond right away. She let it sit, a small act of power. Instead, she stood, stretched, and walked inside to fix herself dinner, rosemary chicken and asparagus. Simple, sharp, unapologetically healthy. Like the microwave sludge she used to inhale between Zoom calls while pretending to laugh at Travis's recycled golf jokes. As the chicken sizzled, her mind wandered, not back to the office, but forward. She imagined Jordan logging into the CRM, clicking through her old accounts like they were files in a cabinet. He'd see the notes, the follow-ups, the happy birthday to your twins reminders. He'd think it was just data, wouldn't understand the pauses between sentences. The tone shifts. The gut instinct that told Dana when a client was about to churn even before they knew it themselves. He'd smile, thinking he had it under control, thinking her departure was a line item solved by a VLOOKUP. Let him. By 10:00 p.m., her site had 47 visitors, 4 consultation requests, 1 from a company she didn't recognize but had definitely been watching her LinkedIn stories. The site traffic chart looked like a heartbeat, steady and climbing. She shut her laptop and leaned back, eyes closed. Wounded pride still simmered in her chest, but something colder had taken its place. Something cleaner. She didn't need them to acknowledge her exit. She didn't need applause or a cake in the break room, or even that dumb, oversized card they made everyone sign when a colleague moved on. She had silence. But in that silence, she had momentum. The only sound she wanted to hear now was the soft ding of a booked call. It started with a calendar reschedule, then a no-show, then 2. Within a week of Dana's exit, things at Logic's sphere got weirdly quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't feel peaceful, more like the eerie stillness right before a thunderstorm. Account managers stared at their empty Zoom windows like abandoned kids waiting to be picked up from school. Meetings that had been recurring for years, suddenly evaporated with a polite, "Let's circle back after the holidays," or worse, no reply at all. One rep named Allison, bright-eyed, 2 years out of college, still believing in pipeline magic, slacked the sales channel asking if anyone else was seeing weird client drop-offs. She said her Wednesday call with a Grand Freight had been canceled 3 times in a row. "They've never done that before," she typed. Jordan replied with a GIF. A freaking GIF. Michael Scott holding a coffee cup that said it's fine. Seasonal slowdown, he wrote underneath it. Totally normal. Q3 always lags a little. Dana, sipping her morning coffee 100 miles away, snorted. There was nothing normal about this. A Grand Freight was Dana's client for 9 years. She knew their Q3 rhythm like she knew her own heartbeat. They never missed calls. They never ghosted. Unless they were sending a message. Her phone vibrated. Calendar alert. Third consult of the week. She pulled up the prep doc she'd made, just a short note to herself. Listen more than you talk. They already know your value. The woman on the other end of the Zoom looked exhausted. Late 40s. Marketing director for a logistics platform Dana used to babysit through rebrands and budget cuts. "We're having a bit of a transition," the client said after a few pleasantries. "There's been some movement on our end, and well, things just don't feel the same since you left." Dana didn't gloat, didn't nod knowingly, she just listened. "We've got a new contact from Logic Sphere," the client continued. "Some guy. Says he's revamping the strategic alignment or whatever. But he didn't know what we meant when we said pivot docking delay variance. You used to help us preempt that every quarter." Dana raised an eyebrow slightly. "That's one of your Q3 flags, right?" from the Pacific corridor. Woman exhaled like someone unclenching for the first time in days. Exactly. They didn't talk about contracts. They didn't talk about SOs or NDAs. It wasn't that kind of call. It was Dana being Dana, letting the client talk, asking sharp questions, writing down notes. When the call ended, Dana's notes were meticulous. Her invoice already prepped. She didn't follow up with a pitch. She didn't send a proposal. She didn't need to. 3 calls booked this week, or more penciled for next. Meanwhile, at the firm, the spreadsheet Jordan had been waving around like gospel was starting to look dusty. The contacts were there, sure. Emails, phone numbers, job titles. But the replies, crickets. One of the older account execs, Brian, who'd been quietly loyal to Dana for years, texted her late one night. I think they're realizing you weren't just the process. You were the trust. She didn't respond. Didn't need to. Instead, she watched her analytics climb again. 7 site visits in the last hour, 2 from unknown companies, 1 from a Fortune 100 logistics firm. At Logic Sphere, Jordan doubled down, started sending weekly motivation Monday emails. Things like, it's not about the churn, it's about the learn. And remember, objections are opportunities. Dana, she didn't object, she didn't chase. She just kept listening and billing. And the storm kept building behind her, noticed by the people still clinging to their spreadsheets. The churn dashboard lit up red, not orange, not yellow, red, blistering, undeniable, panic button red. Logic Sphere's quarterly retention review was supposed to be a formality, something to fill the time between all-hands Zooms and Thursday-catered lunches. But this time, the screen didn't show a smooth slope or a modest uptick. It looked like a free fall. 2 of their biggest accounts, Freightalytics and Agron, flagged as non-responsive. Renewal calls had been pushed twice. Key contacts weren't replying to follow-ups. One had even ghosted mid-contract with 2 months left on the table. The new customer success manager, a guy fresh out of business school who said synergy like it was seasoning, told the CEO, we're seeing a shift in communication patterns. The CEO leaned forward, defined shift. Less engagement, less responsiveness. Are they leaving? He didn't answer. Didn't have to. Jordan tried to pivot. I think this is a hiccup in the new pipeline strategy. We're centralizing client comms, so there's some short-term friction, but long-term we'll see stop. The CEO cut in. What's the last thing you heard from Agron? Silence. Then, I believe they're, evaluating options. Translation, they're gone. The next morning, Dana was making French toast when the email came in. Subject, quick favor. From Melissa Gentry, Senior Director. Marketing and Comms Logic Sphere. The body was polite. Too polite. That overpolished panic where someone's trying to sound breezy while the ship is actively sinking behind them. Hey Dana, hope you're doing great. Quick question. We're navigating a bit of turbulence with some client transitions, totally expected with org changes. Of course, grinning face with sweat. Your names come up more than once as someone they still feel connected to. Would you possibly be open to helping us out on a short-term basis, just to ensure a smooth handoff and maybe calm the waters a bit? Happy to discuss scope. Dana reread it twice, then opened her rate sheet template. She didn't call. She didn't hop on a quick Zoom. She didn't say, of course, happy to help. She attached a branded PDF. Consulting terms, Dana Rivers Consulting hourly rate. $500 minimum engagement. 8 hours payment terms, upfront only. No discounts, no adjustments. Availability, link to calendar scope. Client transition support / account communication restoration / retention strategy. She didn't sign it best or warm regards. Just, let me know if you'd like to proceed. Dana, she clicked send, flipped her French toast, and poured more coffee. 5 minutes later, her site pinged. Someone from Logic Sphere's internal IP had downloaded her rate sheet 3 times. Then Melissa replied, thanks Dana, passing this along internally. We'll follow up shortly. Internally, they were choking on the price tag. Externally, they were trying to play it cool. Dana knew the game. She'd watched them do this with vendors, partners, even employees they thought were lucky to be here. But now, they were the ones circling back, were the ones trying to make the math work. She opened her calendar and blocked the next 2 Fridays, preemptively. Because if they did book her, she knew they'd try to cram every deliverable into a single sprint. She wouldn't let them, her rules, her timeline, her terms. At the office, Jordan was pacing outside the CEO's office with a printed copy of Dana's rate sheet, muttering something about ridiculous overhead and setting a dangerous precedent. The CEO didn't look up from his tablet. He just asked, is she available? Jordan didn't have an answer, Dana, meanwhile, refreshed her inbox. New client inquiry from a logistics SaaS firm she'd never worked with, referral from Freightalytics. She marked it for follow-up. No urgency. She was no longer looking for work. Now, work was finding her. The spreadsheet made its fifth appearance in 6 days. Jordan slapped it onto the conference room table like it was a sacred text. The tab was color-coded. There were filters, drop-down menus, notes in tiny cells explaining who's who, what they do, how to reach them. It was everything he believed Dana had left behind, the full map of her empire, captured in Excel. "Everything we need is right here," he said, jabbing his finger at a column labeled last contact date like it proved something. No one reached for the spreadsheet. CEO just leaned back, arms folded. The CFO stared at the screen like it might start telling the truth if she squinted hard enough. Jordan pressed on. "These relationships aren't proprietary. They're interchangeable. The clients aren't loyal to a person. They're loyal to our platform, our offering." Dana was just the delivery mechanism. The silence after that was long, thick, the kind that turns the air into drywall. Then the CFO spoke. Calm, measured. "Two clients called me this week, Jordan, not sales, me. They asked why Dana's name disappeared from the contact chain." Jordan shifted in his chair. "That's anecdotal. They didn't ask who their new account rep was," she continued, voice cool. "They asked if Dana was okay. One of them called her the reason we stayed on after the 2022 outage." Jordan gripped his pen harder. "She was nice to them," he said, as if that were some sort of sin. "She got results," CEO corrected. Jordan clicked the top of his pen once, twice, then tried again. "Look, I'm not saying Dana didn't have her strengths, but we're not rebuilding a cult of personality here. We're rebuilding a system. The system is what scales. You're losing contracts," the CFO said flatly. "We're repositioning. Some churn is normal." Q3 softens. "And I've got 3 new prospect meetings next week. Are those renewals or cold outreach?" Jordan hesitated. CEO leaned forward. "We're not asking if Dana was nice. We're asking if she was necessary." Jordan's mouth opened, but the voice of a client cut him off, through the conference line, muted but still audible. A recorded call from earlier in the week. They'd played it once already, but this time the CFO queued it up again for emphasis. "I don't know who this new guy is, but Dana used to just know. I didn't even have to explain what was going wrong. She'd fix it before we noticed. What happened to her, anyway?" Click. Silence. Jordan stared at the speaker like it had personally betrayed him. "I'm telling you," he said again, quieter now, "the data is all there." The CEO stood up, walked to the glass wall, and stared down at the street. "No one's arguing about the data, Jordan. We're arguing about the delta between having a name in a cell and having a number someone actually wants to pick up the phone and call." Back in her home office, Dana wasn't thinking about any of this. She was reviewing a new client deck for a startup in Indianapolis. She was drinking cold brew from a mason jar. She was halfway through updating her onboarding template to include Tier 2 SLA options. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. Out of habit, she ignored it. Then came the voicemail. "Hey, this is Brian from Logic Sphere. Not sure if you're still taking calls. Jordan's pushing for big QBR next weekend. He doesn't really know the clients like you do. Just thought I'd ask if maybe you'd be open to a quick consult." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. Her silence was speaking louder than ever. At 9:14 a.m. sharp, the email hit Logic Sphere's renewals inbox like a guillotine. Subject: Contract termination notice effective EOM the sender. Riley Denton, Director of Operations at Core Span Freight, their oldest logistics client. The one Dana onboarded herself during the company's series years ago. The one she used to send handwritten thank you notes to every Christmas, addressed directly to Riley's assistant, because she remembered the assistant's kid was allergic to peppermint. 6-figure account. 11-year relationship. Gone in a 2-paragraph email. Jordan saw it first, forwarded it to the CEO with the note. "Looks like a pivot. They're changing direction. Not unexpected." He even pasted a LinkedIn screenshot showing Core Span's recent job postings in digital transformation and internal ops scaling. His spin was instant. They're building in-house. They'd have left anyway, but the CFO wasn't buying it. She clicked through Core Span's vendor filings. They weren't going internal. They were going elsewhere. Specifically to Dana, because 2 hours later, the CFO pulled up Dana Rivers' consulting site, and there it was, bright as day in the new client's ticker. Now working with Core Span Freight. The words weren't boastful. They were factual, understated. Just a clean list in Dana's signature font, right above her updated schedule. which showed every weekday fully booked for the next 2 weeks. The testimonials section had grown since the site launched. A new one, likely from Courspan. Dana sees around corners. She doesn't just solve problems, she stops them before they show up. Working with her feels like breathing again. Jordan stood behind the CEO as he scrolled. The site was too perfect. No fluff, no jargon, just clarity, control, credibility. She wasn't freelancing. She was thriving. We should send a counteroffer, Jordan muttered. Try to win Courspan back. The CEO didn't reply, just clicked Dana's book a strategy session link. The form loaded. Rate, $500/HR minimum, 8 hours next availability, 13 business days out status. Prepay required. Jordan scoffed. Ridiculous. Who pays that for logistics advice? The CFO spun around in her chair. Apparently Courspan does. Jordan's jaw clenched. She didn't even pitch them, he muttered. She just existed. That's called brand equity, the CEO said. She earned it. Back at her place, Dana was mid-call with a brand new client. A European firm expanding into the Midwest, looking for a stateside strategist who understood both relationships and infrastructure. She didn't mention her old employer. She didn't need to. She just asked thoughtful questions, jotted sharp notes, and set expectations with surgical precision. The client didn't haggle. They paid the invoice before the call ended. Afterward, she checked her site. Analytics up 34% in the past 48 hours. One new testimonial pending approval. And under the recent clients section, added Courspan Freight, Parcel Hub, Bridge Logics Midwest, all of them former warm leads at Logic Sphere. Her phone buzzed. A text from her designer. Want me to make space for a waitlist badge? You're almost full for the month. Dana stared at the screen, not smiling, not glowing, just breathing deeply, for the first time in what felt like years. The company she gave 12 years to was unraveling in boardrooms and group threads, trying to reverse engineer a spreadsheet to solve a trust deficit. Meanwhile, she was sipping black tea, working on her own time with her own clients at her own price. She wasn't someone's asset anymore. She was the value. The booking came in under the name J. Davis. No company listed. No LinkedIn link. Just a burner Gmail address and a prepaid 8-hour deposit. $4,000 wired in without hesitation. Dana almost didn't take it. She had more than enough on her plate, and mystery consults rarely ended well. But something about the time zone, the phrasing in the intake form, it pinged an old nerve. Would like to discuss client re-engagement strategy and friction around legacy transitions. She'd heard that sentence, almost exactly, once before. A deck Jordan presented during his second week at Logic Sphere, right before he'd shoved her out the door. She accepted the booking. Scheduled the Zoom. Let him come to her now. Tuesday, 10 o'clock a.m. sharp, the camera flicked on. She was already there, hair pulled back, a soft blue blouse, no frills background. Just a bookshelf and a whiteboard, clean, intimidating in its precision. Jordan popped on 2 seconds later, clearly flustered, clearly not expecting to be face-to-face so quickly. Still wearing his office dress shirt, collar slightly wrinkled, jaw a little tighter than usual. Hi Dana, he said, trying a smile that looked like it had been assembled by committee. She tilted her head. You booked through my site? Pause. Yeah, he said. Didn't think you'd take the call if it had my name on it. You're correct. He shifted in his chair. Well, here we are. Dana clicked her pen. Let's get started. For the first 10 minutes, she said almost nothing. She let him talk. He fumbled through jargon, pipeline degradation, client-side attrition, renewal friction. He tried to sound confident, but it kept falling flat. Eventually, she held up her hand. You're not bleeding because of friction, Jordan. You're bleeding because you never built anything sticky. You treated my relationships like QR codes, something you could just scan and duplicate. He opened his mouth, but she kept going. Thought the spreadsheet was the asset. It wasn't. The asset was trust. The part you can't sort by column. Another pause. He swallowed hard. You're clearly doing well, he finally said. But look, if we could structure something a bit more flexible, say a rolling contract or a reduced rate for ongoing advisement. Dana smiled, not wide, just enough. My rates, she said, are not flexible. He blinked. We're still technically your former employer, no, she interrupted gently. You're a former employer who's now a client. The distinction matters. Jordan exhaled. She could see the hit land. Not because of her tone, it never rose above cordial, but because of the truth in it. Look, he said, trying again. We've got churn, serious churn. If we bring you back in, maybe part-time, even off books. I don't work off books, Dana said, still smiling. And I don't come back, I consult. Her cursor moved on the screen. She was already typing case notes, logging this consult like any other. No emotion, just process. He stared at her, unsure what he'd expected. Maybe contrition, nostalgia, gratitude. What he got was a wall of steel wrapped in a silk voice. Dana leaned forward slightly. Jordan, I'm going to tell you the truth because that's still my currency. They never trusted you. They tolerated you because I was there to soften the edge. You fired the insulation, and now they're feeling the cold. He didn't reply. She waited a beat, then, without malice, added, if you'd like to extend the consult, you can rebook at the same rate. I'm full through the end of the month, but I'll hold a cancellation window on Wednesdays if needed. Click. Window minimized. Invoice sent. Dana leaned back in her chair. No celebration, no champagne, just calm. It wasn't revenge. It was valuation. And she had finally named hers. The boardroom was so quiet you could hear the HVAC system groan. 7 people around the table. 4 on screen. 1 standing, CEO Mark Haller, pacing like he was trying to wear a groove into the carpet. He'd just gotten off a call with Core Span's COO. The final line still echoed in his skull. We're not interested in renegotiating with middlemen. If Dana's not in the room, we're not renewing. Now he stood, red-faced and tight-jawed, flipping through the Q3 forecast packet like it had personally insulted him. Let me make sure I've got this straight, he said, voice controlled but trembling underneath. We lost Freightalytics, Agron, Parcel Hub, and now Core Span in under 6 weeks. Jordan shifted in his seat. His collar was damp. He reached for the spreadsheet again like it was a bulletproof vest. We have the contacts, he said. They were transferred before Dana left. I personally oversaw the documentation. The CFO didn't look up, just rubbed her temple with 2 fingers. Mark turned on the big screen behind him. Chrome tab, bookmarked. Dana Rivers Consulting Client Services clean layout, live availability, case studies, logos of now former Logic Sphere clients spinning in a discrete carousel. The page loaded smoothly, like she'd invested in real UX instead of empty hype. He pointed to the section labeled Current Openings. Every slot grayed out. The next available booking, 17 business days away. Rate, $500/HR, upfront only, no exceptions. Then Mark's finger jabbed the screen. That is what we're competing with, not a slide deck, not a spreadsheet, a reputation, and you fired it. Jordan straightened. With respect, Mark, we didn't fire her. We restructured. We optimized for growth. Dana had legacy methodologies that weren't scalable. Mark slammed a folder shut. She was the only person our clients liked. Do you understand that? They liked her. Not tolerated, not CC'd politely, liked. She walked into a room and calmed a storm. You walk in and spark 5 more. That's not fair, Jordan said, voice tight. Mark looked at him for a long time. Then at the rest of the board. No one spoke. Not the VP of product, not the head of partnerships, not even legal. Finally, Mark said it slowly. Surgically, you were so eager to make your mark, you erased the only signature we had. Jordan's eyes darted to the screen again. To Dana's rate, he scoffed. It's extortion. No consultant is worth that. Really? The CFO cut in. Then explain why Freightalytics paid it, twice, and raved about the results. Jordan opened his mouth, closed it. Mark turned back to the screen, arms crossed. Book a damn call, he said. Right now. Burn your burner Gmail. Use your real name, pay the rate, and apologize twice. Mark, she's not our employee anymore. She's our only shot at retention. A heavy silence dropped in the room like a sandbag. The CEO sat down slowly, finally still. And next time you think about gutting something irreplaceable, he said, make sure you know the difference between a contact list and a lifeline. On the other side of town, Dana was nowhere near a boardroom. She was hiking. Phone off, calendar locked. The world she'd left behind was unraveling in real time, clawing at the illusion of control, while she moved through the trees with sun on her face and no Slack messages in sight. She hadn't lifted a single finger. And still, she was the only name in the room that mattered. The wire hit her account at 8:47 a.m. sharp. Subject line, Logic Sphere Dana Rivers Consulting Agreement paid amount. $12,000 USD memo. Client transition audit plus retention advisory phase. She didn't flinch. Didn't fist pump. Just nodded once, clicked archive, and closed her banking tab. She'd been clear. 24-hour window to pay, no follow-ups, no reminders. If they wanted her, truly wanted her, they'd follow instructions like any other client. And they had. 9:00 a.m. on the dot, the Zoom lobby lit up. Mark Haller CEO, Christina Nguyen CFO, Jordan Farrow VP, sales. She let them wait 30 seconds. Just enough to feel it. Then she clicked admit all. The screen opened. 3 faces appeared, tight smiles, tighter collars. Jordan looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Dana looked, calm, hair tied back, same clean background, same unshakable stillness. She wasn't dressed up. She wasn't performing. She was the room. "Good morning," she said, and then smiled, not cruelly, not smugly, just with the serene control of someone who no longer owed anyone a single thing. Mark spoke first. "Dana, thanks for making time. We're glad to be working with you again." She nodded. "Let's begin." She pulled up a shared deck, her deck, not theirs. Slide 1, a real-time diagnostic on client sentiment. Pulled from LinkedIn comments, email metadata, Slack threads she still had access to from ex-clients who'd looped her in. Slide 2, projected Q4 churn if Dana remains external. 34%. Slide 3, projected Q4 churn with strategic re-engagement. 6%. Jordan shifted in his chair. She didn't look at him. "I'll be conducting interviews with your remaining Tier 1 clients this week," she said. "I'll need unfiltered access to CRM notes, sales recordings, any documentation attached to the last 6 renewals. If any of that's missing, you'll have churn you can't spin." Mark nodded without hesitation. "You'll have it." Dana continued, flipping through bullet points like a surgeon prepping for operation, efficient, clinical, impersonal. This wasn't her company. This wasn't her team. This was a billable environment. At minute 17, Jordan broke in. "I'm curious," he said, trying for casual. "What would you say we missed?" Philosophically, Dana paused, not for effect. Just to let the silence make room, she looked at him finally. "You believed relationships were data points, that loyalty could be templated, that trust lives in a spreadsheet." She clicked to the final slide. It was just her logo. A single line below it, the difference between a client and a contract, a person. Jordan went quiet. Mark exhaled. Christina broke the silence. "You were always clear about that," said quietly. Dana smiled again. She wasn't here to settle scores. She wasn't here to teach lessons. She was here to execute. She wrapped the call with action items, deadlines, and 3 follow-up slots already booked. The CEO thanked her. The CFO stayed on another 2 minutes just to ask if she had bandwidth for a potential onboarding project. She did, at market rate. No discounts. As the Zoom window closed, Dana sat back, took a long sip of water, looked at her wall calendar. Fully booked through the quarter. 4 major clients, 2 in the pipeline, and 1 last square marked in red. LS Phase IRAP review. The company she helped build had tried to erase her. Now they were paying her to restore what they broke. She didn't torch the building. She built something stronger next door and made them buy a key just to step inside. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.